This is for the Primer Pro Deluxe setup instructions. It's for those that say, hey, reloading primers is fantastic, but now I want to produce them much faster. In order for this to work, you'll need to purchase or upgrade the following equipment: a Lee at-press Deluxe, an NOE primer die set, and 3D printed parts known as the Primer Pro Deluxe. In my previous video, I went over the Lee at-press Deluxe primer delivery system. If that system falls apart, you'll need those instructions on how to put it together, and then come back to this one. To work on the Primer Pro Deluxe, you're going to have to disconnect it from the press. Simply disconnect the two springs and remove that main screw. And there's another hidden one underneath that rail. It's right in the middle of the rail and it's pointing straight upward. Know that that screw hole will be even with this other hole. Make note of the threads. They're similar screws. Sometimes they're a little bit different. The more aggressive screw threads will go into the plastic rail. Keep this rail screw handy. You're going to just be reinstalling it here in a moment. But to ensure it doesn't come apart, I'm going to put this rubber band. I'm going to clear that screw hole. I'm going to get about 3 turns on it. And at this point, the tongue should go in and out freely. I'm going to put 1 drop of Loctite Blue. I'm going to set this lower rail. Now reinstall that rail screw, being careful not to over tighten. It is plastic. I'm going to select, instead of using the NOE, this is also called an Anvil. Notice it has that concave surface in there. That's to put a dome in the primer cup. But I found this 7/8 by 14 pitch at a local fastener store, and I ground this edge flat. So I'm going to install that gold housing on here, kind of rough it in for now, about 1/4 of an inch or so. With this collar loose, you're going to install the anvil all the way until the collar fits snugly and secure. The sled comes next. I'd hold it down and run this bolt up and down till you get a smooth transition for that tongue. This needs to be perfectly flat with no resistance whatsoever. Do not go any further until this is adjusted properly. Take the collar and the anvil out. This is a 3/32 inch Allen wrench. You shouldn't have to do anything to the underside of the housing, but I thought I'd just show you. I'd get some wooden instruments to help you install those magnets because they're very, very strong. Next, Reno gave me a pro tip. Turn this upside down and put those bars, put them flat against your table. Again, inspect this for the exit. You want the exit side to go down. Put that in the housing and push down on that housing. I've got a 7/64 T-handle, I think works best. And while you're pushing down on it, is to tighten it down. That will keep this NOE die from riding high. We're going to install that housing on here. The set screw goes toward you. It's a no-brainer. It just sits on top. I'm going to put this entire assembly on top of here. I'm going to find my main screw to Ace Hardware and pick up a couple of these. This one is cut off a little bit from a 2-inch countersunk, 832. I think that's fine thread. If that's not the right height or length, the whole system doesn't work. Just wanted you to know that I've got a little play in my upper rail. That's okay. I turn my attention to the top for a moment. It's very important you move that spring from down below here to up here. It'll set the tension and the distance properly. If you don't do that, it won't work. So I'm going to find my spring, and I'm going to there, a no-brainer, through the spring, find my cotter pin, there. I'm setting up for small primers, so I'm going to put the punch into this holder. It easily slides into place. Put it in through the top, and it will seat into place. It gets about a 1/16 of a turn to lock. The alignment between the bottle opener and that spring going right down the primer rail. And Reno likes to have his one notch over to the left. That seems to work out better for him. The point Reno was trying to make was when you actuate this handle, that spring right there will travel from the center of the tower and work its way so it's rubbing against the left leg of that tower. But his point is that this press is designed to work on sub-mini fractions of an inch. And that all controls the length of throw or the travel of that tongue. And the whole thing here is to actuate or move that primer gate. The end of that tongue there must receive the next primer. So that distance is controlled by how far you turn what I call the bottle opener. That's what this rod is. It's called the punch stiffener, and you just merely put it on top, put your handle down, and insert it into the center of your die. Put your cap back on, because if the cap is loose here, this punch has a lot of play in it, and finger tighten it down. When you raise that back up, that punch will now be very, very stiff, and it'll always hit the center of that die perfectly. There are two rubbery grommets, and I'm set up for small primers. The smaller one merely fits over the alignment pin and helps keep those primers into play. To attach this spring to the hook, put this handle at any comfortable position. Attach the hook. Next step, spring onto the hook before I put the tower back on. I think it's easier. Piece of cake. I'm going to find my tower and make sure this hardware is installed. I'm just going to rough it in for now, but this part of the tower faces inward or to the left, and this goes over the top. Move my handle up and down. That makes it operate like butter. I think I'll screw this in all the way as my last step. That gooseneck, that merely squeezes together and fits on top. You'll see where it goes. This is pretty much a no-brainer. But it actually needs about 5 or 6 primers in that chute to have enough weight to push the primers forward onto the tongue. And make sure that primer chute is all the way down 100%. So when you get low on primers here, that gate won't have enough weight to push the primers forward onto the tongue. Open means not that this is open, but to open up the entire tray, and that will allow you to pour 50, 60 primers in there. I reload primers, so all these primers you'll notice don't have the anvils in them, nor any powder. But you want to shake it and make double sure that none of these are flipped upside down. Carefully close it. Put this into the lock position. Lock means it will lock that gate closed so these primers can't come out of the chute. When I push this in the top position, these primers should come out freely. So I'm going to put it in its lock position right now. The bottom of that needs to be even with that line. That's properly locked where this is not. Very frustrating. And then I'm going to install it onto the top of this chute. Of course, I'll put it back onto the system, and then I'll put it into its on position. It'll fill up that chute automatically, and it'll feed the primers in one after the other. That primer gate is doing its job. Make sure this button is up for small pistol primers. Rena was right. Cup prep. As fast as you can pull a handle. To switch to large primers, simply do the following. Push down on the primer selector. Don't forget to clear these if necessary. They may be small primers. By the by, these wooden skewers from Walmart are wonderful for getting in here and moving these primers around. Switch to the large primer grommet. I call this piece the gate blocker. For large primers, it keeps the primer gate from moving and gumming up the works. The hook part hooks over the tower, and the little tail fits next to the primer gate. They are both in line. This primer slider or tongue is provided as an option for large primers, but I'd try to use the original tongue first, as it's a pain to switch between these sliders. To clear jam, you merely loosen the anvil, dump the problem, reinstall, you're back in business. You need to come to the MeWe groups and meet these guys. Thank you. This is Mark on aardvarkreloading.com. If this tutorial helped you, I have many others like it. Please consider helping with the cost of publication by visiting the support page. There are several ways to do so. If you already are a contributor, I really couldn't afford to publish or maintain this site on my own. Thank you.